Hey, welcome back. My name's Justin. Today I'm doing a review on the brand new Alesis Nitro Max. I think this is the long-term replacement for the baseline Alesis Nitro. They haven't officially announced that though. But this new drum set has a larger snare drum and an all-new module, which is particularly surprising to me because the previous version of the Nitro, it's been using the same module that Alesis has been selling for like 10 years straight. Maybe not all new, like the screen's the same, inputs and outputs are the same, but at least the sounds are new and Bluetooth as a feature has been added. And of course, as always, I let you know how I get access to the gear I'm reviewing. In this case, it was sent to me by Alesis for review, and I'm shipping it back after this video is done. But, of course, this is not a hype video. This will be a legit review with pros and cons and whether or not I personally think it's worth buying. But first, today's video is brought to you by EdrumCenter.com. If you're shopping for electronic drums, go check out EdrumCenter first. They're a drum store based in Tennessee that just focuses on electronic drums. And by the way, just wanted to let you know that you have a little bit of time to join the Edrum Nation contest where they're giving away free electronic drum gear and gift cards. So if you want to join that contest, details are in the link in the description. Okay, so back to the Nitro Max. We're going to start with what comes in the box, general sizing, and initial setup. So the Nitro Max comes with a 10-inch dual zone snare drum. You get 3 8-inch single zone tom pads. You get an actual kick drum tower. You get 3 cymbals that are all 10 inches across and single zone. One of them is chokeable. And everything is sitting on a 4-post aluminum drum rack. For accessories, you get a drum key and an Allen wrench so you can set up the drum set, and then you get a kick drum pedal and a pair of drumsticks so you can actually play the drum set when it's set up. A lot of people will buy this kind of drum set as their first ever drum set of any type, so you probably don't have a kick drum pedal or a pair of drumsticks lying around. This will save you $60 right there. Now let's move ahead to setup. Everything comes in a single, very compact box. So if you're planning on buying this in person at a store like Guitar Center or Sam Ash, you can probably fit this in the back seat of your car. Also be aware, you need to tighten all the mesh heads because Alesis ships their drum sets with very loose mesh heads out of the box. You want to get that up to tension so it feels right and also triggers at its best. If you've noticed that your cymbals are really floppy, you may need to really crank down on the cymbal nuts to really reduce them, moving around while you're playing, at least on the hi-hat. In case you're wondering whether or not you can use double pedals with this, the technical answer is yes, you can. I tried it with a DW5000 and it did fit, barely. However, I would say that I don't really think this is the best option for double pedals. Yeah, I wouldn't really choose this drum set if you're trying to be like a metal drummer. If you're worried about the noise of this drum set, thankfully it's pretty quiet. Unless you have ultra thin floors or ultra thin walls, I don't think you're going to get complaints from your neighbors by playing this drum set. On the cable side of things, everything uses 1/4-inch connections, except for the hi-hat controller, which uses an 1/8-inch connection. Alesis also included a bunch of these little Velcro ties, so you can clean up the look of the cables on your drum rack, or you can just wind them around the drum rack if you prefer to do that. If you do want to make the drum set a little bit bigger, you can also buy an expansion pack for another $100 that will give you Tom number 4 and Crash 2. Or you can just buy this drum set with the expansion already added. Now, oddly enough, you can buy the baseline Alesis Nitro expansion pack for $60 instead of $100 for the Nitro Max. However, I don't know if the thread size of the clamps that will attach it to your drum rack, I don't know if it's the exact same size or not. So, the risk will be on you if you want to save that $40, but it could be a potential way to expand your drum set for less money. You can buy it in either black or red. Speaking of which, this drum set technically has a very small, very, very narrow red shell. You just can't see it at all angles because of how, narrow it is. Now when it comes to the playing surface, these are all using 2-ply mesh on the toms and the snare drum. The triggers on the inside are side mounted for the toms, and then the snare drum has that sort of Alesis trigger design they have. It's like a piece of plastic with 4 posts in a sort of square configuration on the snare drum. It is dual zone, you have a separate rim zone, and thankfully inside of the module, you can actually change the sound for the rim and the head separately. That's not always a given on all electronic drums, so I'm glad they've included that feature. Now, one thing that I'm a little bit sad about with this drum set is that the baseline Alesis Nitro toms, they have a rim on them. It didn't do anything, but at least it made it look more drum-like. It's a cosmetic thing at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but it does make the drum look a little bit more cheap. Now let's move ahead to overall playing experience. This drum set actually feels surprisingly good. It may take you a little bit to adjust to a smaller electronic drum set like this, but I feel like the transition is helped by getting a 10-inch snare versus an 8-inch snare, which is a little bit more common on drum sets of this price range. Now, something important to mention is that I stopped using the drum rack to hold my snare drum. Instead, I'm using a dedicated snare drum stand. And this is because the bar that holds the snare drum on the drum rack, it kept coming loose. So I'd have to push it back in the socket that holds it on leg number 2, and then I'd have to use an Allen wrench to tighten everything down. And then it would just come loose again. So this happened enough times where I just decided to use a snare drum stand instead. Now when it comes to the cymbals, all of them are single zone. However, with the ride cymbal, I believe what they've done is you just have to hit the cymbal hard and then it triggers a separate bell sound. So it sort of gets around the fact that it's single zone. One of the cymbals is chokeable. However, just be aware that it is very finicky. It's a small sensor. So if you don't grab right where the sensor is, you may just look dumb holding a cymbal trying to choke a cymbal while nothing's happening. So next up, let's talk about the Nitro Max drum module. The module comes with 32 kits built in, plus 16 user kits. All of them can be edited though. There are 440 sounds, and according to Alesis, they're derived from the BFD and Strata sound libraries of the parent company of Alesis, which is InMusic. Now don't get too excited. This isn't like a Pearl Mimic sort of thing where they're grabbing an entire drum plugin and just plopping that inside of a module. That's not really what's happening. I think they're just sort of cutting out enough layers of some of the different sounds in order to get something that will fit in a weaker drum module like this at this price point. What I'm really noticing isn't that you're getting a ton of round-robin multi-layered samples that have really long sound durations. What I'm just noticing is that some of the sounds they include are mixed better than the previous version of the module. So while I'm still hearing machine gunning and stuff like that, I'm just having fun with these sounds. I like this module more. Now switching to the back of the module, you get USB out for MIDI, you get Cymbal 2 and Tom 4 for expanding your drum set. Cymbal 2, just think of that as Crash 2. I feel like that's how they should have labeled it. You get right and left master outs that are 1/4 inch, you get an 1/8 inch aux in, and of course your headphone jack is also 1/8 inch as well. And finally, you got the last invisible input, which is the fact this finally has Bluetooth. You don't have to use that aux in, which is great. This is a really nice quality of life thing. And for some reason, this isn't a standard feature in all electronic drum sets yet. You think it would be, but like the Roland T02 just came out and it doesn't have Bluetooth. They charge you for a separate adapter from their sister company, Boss. Pairing is very, very fast. Here's a live video of me doing it. And yeah, you're up and running right away. However, there is a weird quirk. At least with my iPhone, I found that it starts with Bluetooth volume at the max, and then a little bit later it drops down to the last level you set it at. I also find it really handy that they build a cell phone tray into the top of the module. If you're playing along the songs on your phone, like, are you going to put it in your pocket and then pull it out of your pocket every time you want to skip a song? That's annoying. You can put it on the floor, but then your cell phone's on the floor. You don't want to do that. You have to have like a table or a tray somewhere. It's annoying. Having a module that has a little cell phone tray in it is actually useful. Something else kind of useful is that you can actually change your sounds a little bit. You can create your own custom kits, which is great right there, but also you can tune your sounds up and down. You can do a 3-band EQ on your drums. You can adjust how much reverb is on your drums, and that might not sound like a ton, but for a $400 drum set, that's actually not always the case that you can even change that stuff. There's a whole metronome section that will tell you how far you're off the beat. It is very strict though. It will let you know you're playing too fast right away. And if you don't want to play along the songs on your cell phone, there's a bunch of award-winning, Grammy-nominated songs built into this module. Now, when it comes to settings, you can use it the way it is out of the box, but in case you're running into some problems like I did, here's some simple solutions. So on the kick drum, if you get some light double triggering, because kick drums are bouncy on electronic drums, and those micro secondary hits really stand out on E-drums. To fix this, hit the kick drum once, press utility twice, and raise the threshold till the problem goes away. Be careful with this. If you go too high, it will actually ruin everything, but a little bit does help a lot. On the snare drum, I wanted it to be more sensitive, so I went over here to curve, and I set it to curve 6. That made it more sensitive. Now, one setting that I'm really missing and that I hope they add in a future firmware patch is a rim head adjustment. This is really important because there are times when I'm trying to play a rim shot on the snare drum, and instead of playing a rim shot, it plays a head zone hit. A rim head adjust will allow you to swing it one way or the other. So if it's playing rim shots way too often, when you're playing a head zone hit, you can swing it to the left. If you're not playing enough rim shots while you're clearly hitting both zones at the same time, you can swing it over to the right. A rim sensitivity adjustment is fine, it's useful, but it's just for the sensitivity of the rim. It's not really a rim head adjust. And they need to add that in the next firmware patch. Okay, so now I should probably mention software. With this drum set, Alesis is really trying to promote the fact that you get melodics, you get Drumeo, and you get the BFD player. The problem is, I'm not really excited about any of those pieces of software for one reason or another. Like, the fact is, you only get 60 free lessons of melodics, and after that you have to pay for it. You only get 90 days of Drumeo for free, and the BFD player is not unique to this drum set. Anybody can download it right now for free from the website. You can download it, just see if you like it, and then move on from there. Another really good free drum plugin to use with this drum set is actually Steven Slate Drums 5 Free Edition. That's what my brother uses on his electronic drum set all the time. I keep trying to get him to buy EZdrummer 3. He takes a look at the price, and he's like, no, I'll just stick with this free plugin. Now let's take a look at how this drum set sort of sits in Alesis's overall electronic drum lineup. You got the Turbo, the Nitro Expanded, the Nitro Max, the Nitro Max Expanded, the Surge, and then the Surge SE. The Surge is marked as on clearance, so that's going to go away soon, but that is a better buy than the Surge SE because they're almost identical to each other. The most obvious difference is really the looks. Under the hood, not really much new is happening here. Switching over to the Turbo, I'd probably also skip that. There's no kick drum tower, and the module isn't that impressive. The Nitro, I'd probably also skip that as well, because you can buy the Nitro Expanded for only $10 more, and that just is a no-brainer to me. So if I had a budget of $400, and if I chose to go with Alesis, I'd probably pick up either the Nitro Expanded if I wanted to have more components, or I'd go with the Nitro Max if I wanted the slightly better module and the larger snare drum. Okay, so now that we've gone over the details of the drum set, now let's talk about whether or not it's worth buying. Keep in mind, this is a $400 electronic drum set. In the beginner electronic drum market, at least in North America, every $50 to $100 you spend or take away from your budget drastically affects what kind of drum set you get access to. And at $400, Alesis has a very unique combination of features that you don't really see that often. A 10-inch dual-zone mesh snare drum, mesh tom pads, a kick drum tower instead of like a stupid pedal thing, and then a module that has Bluetooth. That combination at $400 is really hard to find at $400 in a North American music store. But at the same time, I'm conflicted about the drum set because I was having trouble with that arm that holds a snare drum and the fact that I'd try to play rim shots sometimes and it wouldn't trigger a rim shot, so the settings need to be worked on a little bit in a software patch. The fact that the module may have sounds from BFD, but Roland, Yamaha, and Simmons, their beginner modules all still sound better for some reason. So because of the pros and cons, it's left me a little bit conflicted about this drum set. There's stuff I like and stuff I dislike about it. But considering that it's $400, it's hard to deny that you should at least consider it while you're shopping. I think that's where I'm landing. It's one of the better $400 electronic drum sets out there. In addition to this, if you can bump up to $450, then the Simmons Titan 50 becomes a really viable option. Bump up to $500, then the Roland TD-0 2KV becomes a viable option. There's a lot of beginner electronic drums depending on how much money you're willing to spend. But Alesis is definitely being aggressive with this kit, and it's one of the better electronic drums I've played at $400. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.